I'm back on the fixing the box to the adapter plate. I've had some jiggery pokery because yeah, well, we'll discuss that later. Anyway, what I've done is I've lined up the side of the box with the side of the plate, and the top of the box has got something like 10 to 15 thou behind the top of this plate, which I'm going to skim when I cut the dovetail slots in. I've drilled the three and drilled and tapped the three holes for those cap heads which fix the plug to the plate, and I'd given myself 0.5 mm clearance around each, well, 20 thou clearance around each cap head, so that that plug could be adjusted to give me that lined up. So now I've got that sat on it, I've locked the plug down. So the next job is lift the box off the plate, leaving the plug fixed to the plate, and then I can spot through and drill and tap the 6 clamp ring holes into the adapter plate. It's a lot of pissing about, but I hate drilling holes, tapping them, and then finding out that I'm 10 thou out and everything binds up. And this is the only way I could think of doing it. Well, that all fits. So that's the clamp plate clamped through the plug and into the backing plate. And the centre 3 cap heads clamp the plug to the plate. We're lined up here, and we got a small amount to take off there to skim it through. And I've even got a hex drive on the end of an extension that fits. Hurrah! So the next job is basically take that lot off, well, the clamp plate off anyway. I'm going to leave the plug in place, and then it's machining the T-slots into that, and then hopefully we can get it mounted. So far so good. This is taking off and squaring up to the top edge. We're taking off 10 thou from the most outer square end, and it tapers down to 6 thou at the other end. Nothing like a bit of parallax to throw it out. Try and come on, focus. Anyway, it's lined up, you can't see it. It has proven a pain in the arse, this plate, for so many reasons. The T-cut, or T-slot cutter is undersized. So that's what we've got. and it's 28mm, and what I need's 30, so it has to go in, and it's too shallow as well, so it goes in, cuts through, then goes left, then goes right, then goes down, then goes, oh, what a pain in the arse. Still beats filing though. Bring you back when we're chopping. It's been a long day. Well, I didn't realise the video battery packed up. We've roughed out the last one, just got to put the T-slot cutter through it, and then the big clean down and see whether everything fits. So we've got the box mounted on, a bit of pissing about getting it lined up and height adjusted and all the rest of it. Anyway, it's as near as I can get it now without well, I think about a better way of doing it. But the problem I've got, I need to make some new tie studs. I bought some semi-hard tough, I think it was EN20 something T. Anyway, that in itself was tricky enough, but because my lathe is metric and I haven't got a conversion gear set, I couldn't achieve a 11 threads per inch. So I did it with a hand tap, wrecked 2 in the process. So I'm in a position where I've got to make some new ones basically. So the way it's set up at the moment, I can set that perfectly. On the back face, which is the carriage, when I index it left and right, I've got over 6.5 inches. I've got just under a thou of it not running perfectly parallel to the axes of the ram. So over the width of travel, there's probably 2-3 thou at most. I need a longer straight edge to set up. Going from the front to the back, or back to the front now, whichever way you want to look at it. On the box section, I've got a rise of a thou, so the ram is higher at this position than it is at the back, which correlates to how I set it up when I was initially measuring it all. So I'm not going to do anything about that. On the carriage section, it's not giving me the same result as I get here. Don't know why. I need to do some more investigation to actually find out exactly what it is giving me. But before, it's been such a pain in the arse winding it round by hand. I think what I'm going to do is get the power set up, and then I should be able to index it backwards and forwards on inch. Because as it is, I can't get a smooth crank round on the crank handle. There's that much effort involved in at the end of each stroke. It's just a pain. So
yeah, scratching my head now. I need to do something for the front support. I'm just, for the moment, I'm just going to put in the original one, which is a post sitting on the foot, which sits under the box. And then I need to make up something which will fit in the round of the hole there and have a leg extension leg going down. Now it's all in situ, at least I can get some measurements off it. And just carry on plinking away, getting stuff progressed on it. I need to make up, as I say, the tie rods. The idea is, when it's in its horizontal plane, is to have the tie rods taking the bulk of the strain, not all on those on the clamp ring. So yeah, I'm knackered. I've been cranking it backwards and forwards and winding it in and out, and oh yeah, it's tiring stuff. Excuse us. Had a few, had a bit of time to take some thought on this, and been having some dialogue with a chap called Boris. You can see it in the comments on the previous video. His concerns, and I share them, are that when the box is rotated, the only thing supporting it against the cutting action of the tool is the rim there, which is, for all intents and purposes, the same as that. It's 1/2 inch thick, 1/2 inch wide, and as the cutting forces are pushing against the workpiece, it's trying to peel the box off the clamp plate. Now, he makes the observation that cast iron is stronger in compression than it is on not in compression. I forgot the term. And originally this was held on with the 4 tie rods straight the way through into the keys at the back here. The modified version of the tie rods are going through to the adapter plate, but when it's rotated, the tie rods don't fit anywhere. When I originally started putting sketches together of how to do it, I had visions of making a much larger adapter plate and having basically a 360-degree keyway milled in. But when I actually sat and draw that out, the thing has got to come out to about here, and it just looked ridiculous. So I opted not for that, and I opted to go for something internally. So the next thing I looked at was to see, could I make a tube which would fit against the, held on against the adapter plate, with basically, which would come through and basically allow the box to rotate on these board faces. That then gave me a dose of the EBGBs, because I couldn't work out how I could get both boards perfectly aligned using the equipment I've got. And Boris has made the observation, well, actually you only need to get the back one set up in the same way that you have done with your plug, and the front one would be a clearance fit with a plate clamped over it, so that the cutting forces are, for all intents and purposes, resisted. So as the force tries to push this way, the plate holding this is acting the same way as these 4 tie rods. Bugger. Wish I'd have thought that one through a bit more. Shoe, I could still do something along those lines. I could extend the 8mm cap heads. I could even re-drill them out and make them 10, and then I could even leave that clamp plate on for what it's doing, or take it off and make a plug fit on here with basically a series of cap heads around it, which might prove to be a better solution. As I don't need to do any machining work at the moment, which is inclined, i.e. with the table tilted, I'm going to leave it as is, but it's in my mind to perhaps come back and review it and see. Of course, the other option is don't take as big a bloody cut when it's inclined, so you're putting less forces through it all. My thoughts were that the force involved in pushing let's say a 60 thou depth of cut, 10 thou step over, which is what that little shaper will do about at its limit. It was a lot less force involved in shoving that through a piece of steel than there would be to actually shear off as a straight shear the whole of that rim. Why do I say a straight shear? Well, because if the plate is inclined but it's in support at this end, my understanding of it is that the force which is coming along here, if it's not supported, it's going to tear out the top side before it does the bottom side. So if it is supported, it then goes back into being a straightforward. It's got to either snap the heads off the fixings or snap that casting around there. If you take a look at this one, and forgive me, Boris, I underestimated how this was on. They're a 1/2 inch Whitworth studs held on, running in slots, and you have a look, there's not really a lot of clamping area a bit underneath those nuts, but that's all that supports that against the cutting forces. And then it's got the little leg set underneath. So maybe I'm being overly nervous, I don't know. I'm not overly fussed just at the moment, but it is of a concern that last thing I want to do is bust the front of the box off, although I do have the spare box which is larger. Anyway, today's dilemma, once I get my arse into gear, is am I going to take or try and take a cut to clean the top face up so that I know that that face then is a flat true plane. In order to do that, now bearing in mind that all of this, it's all been re-scraped and it should be in good alignment, we do know that it's set to come up, and I think it's 1.5 thou over the full 14 inches of stroke. So what I want to be able to do is stick something on here which is of a known flat surface, and then with it sat so it's at that point and that point supported, just run a DTI off the head along that full stroke. That'll tell me then what that incline is in relation to the movement of the head, because everything I'm doing at the moment is only based on a sort of a 6.5 inch long set of parallels I've got. If the bigger ones are only 10 inch, so they're just not long enough. I need something at least 12, ideally 15, 16 inches long. And then because I know that this is a touch proud, I want to actually sit it there and there, knowing that it's not going to belly in the middle. So I'll bring you back when I've worked out how the hell I'm going to be doing that. Well, we've spent much of the day getting the inverter set up on the wall, wired up, cleaning some crap around the back, and then basically making up the holder to carry the DTI. And what I'm doing is cycling the machine on slow revs and taking a reading from the back here all the way forward, right the way across, because as you can tell, this surface is a bit mangled. I've just stoned it off at the moment. I've got the box off again, because running the dial across, I'm getting next to no movement along this section. Then I was getting a bounce around here because it was sitting high, and that was the same across the full width. As soon as it got onto the box, I was just getting an inconsistent reading, but it was I can't remember which way around it was now, but anyway, the reading at this point was different to this point by something in the region of 5 thou. So took the box off, lined the plate top up now. It turns out what I'd done was stuck that T nut in upside down, which has actually throwed the holes up a touch so it wouldn't knock down flush. It just means I've got to trim another one off now. Anyway, so I'm happy that the plate now is sitting flush or just below, but the box
Yeah, alright, so obviously I'm getting scraping withdrawals.
What I've done is just blued up the plate, the smallest surface plate, stuck it on top. I can't feel this, and I can't, when I put a straight edge and slide it across, there's no step, but there is, and it's, you know, blatantly obvious why. So I'm just going to hand scrape that flat or below the surface, and then stick it back up and try it again. Well, it's 10 minutes just to scrape down this area. I've not re-inked the stone, I've just re-spread it. But you can tell if you go back, skip back and look at the earlier clip, none of this lot was touching. So that high area was just holding it off. Now I've got to put it all back together and see if that's the reason I was getting the anomaly in the DTI reading. Bring you back when we're loaded up. Always best to have a good night's sleep before you start chopping anything about. Thinking back, when I marked out the holes for this, what I did was put the plug loosely onto the plate, sat the box on the plate, got it so at the top of the plate was flush with the box, and then spotted through the holes for the mounting holes. But I also at the time put in, I don't know if you can see that, 1.5 feeler gauge at the bottom to take all the play out. So that's wedged in, which shoves the box shoves the box hard against the top edge, which is what gravity would be doing when it's mounted. So basically what I've done is took the box off the carriage again, left all the T-nuts in position. I've now got it so I've got an edge so the box is sitting a few thou above the top of the plate, so that I can take this machine this down before I start hitting that. I'm going to go along and try and get a dimension. I want that about 2 thou above the top of the plate. That'll give me the clean up before I start trimming the plate down, because I've already took some off the plate so the plate will sit flush with the other surface. So the theory is now, if I lock up those 3 cap heads, that sets the plug position in relation to the plate, so then I can lift the box off, put the plate onto the carriage and set the top of the plate flush with the top of that. So then in theory the box, when it then gets put back in position and checked left to right, should sit around about 3 thou higher than the top of that, ready for a clean up pass. God, it's complicated. Best laid plans. After much jiggering and pokery, and yeah, I've got backache now from lifting that box on and off so many times. Naught at the top end and naught to here. Then we go to 4 thou high here, and it drops down to just over 1.5 thou high here. When I say high, in terms of the distance between that face and the ram. So if you take off what with the fact that we know the ram is running up, we're actually 90 degrees. For some reason we've got a hump in the middle, and it's duplicated all the way across. Not entirely sure why, but I've got a variation of, I think down here I've got thou high here, thou high, 1.5 thou, and then on the face it's clamping 4 thou at the outsides, 3.5. I've got 2 thou high higher on this corner than that corner, and it drops down to 1.5 thou, so there's obviously been something, and it's only on this one keyway, so that's could have been distorted in some way. So that's about as close as I can get it. So I'm getting to the stage where I'm thinking now's the time to trim it all off. We thought we'd share the beauty that is my stick welding. Jesus. Yeah. What we're doing is welding on the 5/8 Whitworth nuts and then cleaning them up. It's a sort of smiley face. God dear. Yeah. There's only to stop them coming off. Don't think anybody's going to try and nick them. Come on, there you go. Well, we've got the clamp bolts in. I've taken off the clamp plate. I've cleaned the back of the box. Everything's sitting nice and snug. I can't find any excuse for why that position is somewhere between 3 and 4 thou higher than that position. I've got 0 at the back and 0 at the front, and next to sod all variation across. So my gut feel says to basically clean the top of the table off, taking it down, including the plate there. The thing with the shaper is you're supposed to be able to clean its work surface off, i.e. it can cut its own work table. It's the only machine in the shop that can do that. With me adding in that 28mm thick plate, I'm around about 11mm short on total stroke as it is at the moment. In an earlier episode you can see where I've added in a cap head and a locking collar on the end of the stroke adjust lead screw to stop that stroke adjust coming out. Now I'm pretty sure that one more revolution of that stroke adjust will give me the extra ½ inch I'm trying to squeeze in. So I'm probably going to end up just taking out that cap head for now. I might make a quick mod, put it back in, just so that I can achieve that stroke on there. If it don't work, what I'm going to do is leave 1/4 inch at this end and 1/4 inch at that end, because they're the zeros. So everywhere in between will be cleaned off. It'll look like a bit of a dog's dinner, but the working area that I'm more than likely going to use will be flat and snug. And if in the event I come to need to clamp something on this very end, it's not going to be more than ½ a thou out anyway. So that's the plan. Don't know whether you've been watching, but A-Bomb has invested in a shaper for his shop, and it's a beauty. I think it's 32 or 36 inch G&E. Doesn't look to have done a great deal of work from the pictures I've seen of it and the short bits of video. And yeah, I wish I had a bunch of mates that'd tip up to the side of the country, load it up, truck it over. I want to see whether they still turn up to help him stick it into his shop. I suspect they will. What a beautiful bit of kit though. I hope he gets it up and running and does the same kind of videos that are informative like Steve Summers, because they've been great. Anyway, enough of me babbling on. I'll probably get something cobbled together as a video and uploaded, just so as you don't think I fell off the end and died. Cheers all. About 1/8 of an inch short at the start of the stroke, and the same at the end of the stroke. So we're effectively 1/4 of an inch short overall, which is annoying. Might be a tad more, might be 3/8. Anyway, I've adjusted the stock cap head on the stroke adjust, and that's the maximum stroke I can get out of it. Any further and the yoke is colliding with the internal castings, so that means grinding stuff away, and I'm not doing that. So I'm going to trim up the top face as is, and then do a ram stroke adjust to clean off the last bits if I need to. I don't think I'll need it though. They'll bring you back when I'm cutting.
Oh, we're just taking a very, very light skim. I think it's about 1 thou depth of cut. I just want it's a little bit more than a dry cycle. All I want to do is just make sure that nothing untoward is going to happen as it goes the full way across the cut. Been a nervous machinist. I don't want to cock it up at this stage. So I'm going to do it in 3 passes. This being the first, which is just to establish everything straight. Next one will be take off 3 or 4 thou, and then there'll be a final clean off pass with either a flat nose or a radius tool. Depends how it handles this section of steel in relation to the cast. So you can see the strokes just starting on the table, and it's just fading out. It's barely kissing it. I'm going to bore you watching this, but I put enough oil on to drown a cat, so it's a little bedding at the same time. Right, this is the second pass. First one went off fairly trouble-free. I've decided to move the ram back and start the cut on the back of the table, which is leaving me that it's a 5 thou depth of cut, 16 thou step over, 18 thou step over. And it's still got a bit to go, but I'm going to take it easy, nice and gently. For no other reason than I don't want the cutting tool to the edge to drop going between these different materials. And if I'm really honest, I'm quite happy sitting here watching it run. First time in however many decades. What I have noticed is you watch the index ring,
every now and again,
even though it does the same number of clicks, it doesn't seem to shift the same amount. So I think it's just sticking. I think it's the tension that's on that lead screw that's put on by the 2 locking nuts at the other end. I guess it'd be better with some kind of a spring washer setup. You're cutting fresh air at the moment, so I'll wind it on and bring you back.
That makes me dizzy. So I'm just cleaning up the last half inch here. Unfortunately, I can't, with a short stroke and the ram fully extended forwards, I can't reach it, so I've got to put it on a long stroke. We'll see in a minute. I'm happy with that. I've just gone over it lightly with a stone. This area is a bit, it's not as good a finish. Don't know why. But I'm getting the only variation I can find from here to here and there to there, i.e. all four corners, is playing the DTI. So there's certainly less than a thou. It's looking like about a quarter of a thou, which I'm alright with. That's another weekend done. So I will get this now put together and uploaded. Don't know what, I think the next job is to sort the vice out, which is in bits. I don't know how much of this I'll video going forward, because I'm not an electrical guy. It's all electronic wizardry as far as I'm concerned. I'm copying and pasting an inverter setup that I botched together a while back, and I did the same thing again from my mill, from my lathe, from a table saw, and all I do is keep pissing about with the low voltage stuff until I get a circuit that does what I want it to do. Anyway, so that's my inverter. It's a 3 horsepower Huangyang something or other. Yeah, that's the destruction book that comes with them in a box, shipped out of China. Loads of fancy stuff, tells you all about it. Long and the short of it is, I can't tell you which is best, which is not. But I'm on my, I think this is my 5th one I've done. And I've been alright with them so far. So I've got a 240 volt single phase supply into the workshop, which comes in through a consumer board at a 32 amp breaker and gets split down into then some direct feeds on circuit breakers for 16 amp supplies, and then a ring main of 13 amp supplies, and then the lighting system. What I'll be doing is setting this inverter up, probably going to plug it into a, looking round, it's probably going to go into a 13 amp socket. It's only a 2 horse motor, so it's a bit overkill. I always buy, or have done so far, only bought the 3 horsepower units for the simple reason that they're all the same for me. They fit in an enclosure which I can also get locally. I cobbled together a steel back plate, or aluminium in this case, screw it into the box, and then the inverter screws onto that. The heat sink on these inverters isn't a big lump of aluminium that connects to something. It is literally a couple of small aluminium fins, so you need a good airflow through. I usually, I'll show you on my, here's one I prepared earlier box. I usually put a filter on the top and an airflow and one underneath. As you can see, I cut a hole out the middle and stick a window on, purely so I can get a visual indication off there as to the hertz I'm running at. or amps if I'm getting a bit nervous. So what I'd originally planned to use this inverter on my pillar drill to save me pissing about changing belts, but funds is tight, so it's been reallocated. I've picked up a standard switch box off eBay. These are, I think, about 18 quid, made up like that, with a set of normally closed or normally open contactors below. There's different varieties. This one's got a two-way switch on it. Now I normally have stop, start, forward, reverse, because I don't want to run the shaper in reverse, because I haven't got a reverse clapper box for it yet. I'll be running this as stop, start, forward, and then jog, and it's that last function which I've got to piss about with to work out the right inputs for the PLC and the normally open, normally closed contactor doodles in there. So opening up the inverter connections, I've got cable entry points on my box set up now. So I've got, you can see it now, power in, power and power out. There's a big sign in there that says motor, so that's where your three phases come out, and then it tells you in the destruction book and also the labelling on the front here as to what the main power terminals. I'm not going to go through that because, as I say, it's hot. It's 240 volt. It's going in at single phase and coming out at three phase. I'll show you how I've done it, but I won't show you me doing it. And then these terminal rails at the top are for all the inputs from the external switch box. That's where the fun starts. So as I say, I think my starting point is going to be copying what I've got for a forward reverse setup, and then swapping out the reverse signal for a jog, and then setting up the parameters in the inverter for that. And when I get a bit of progress, I'll bring you back. So when you get your box for your switches, as I say, I got these off a guy on eBay. It's a firm over in Northern Ireland sells them. I can't buy the components for the price he's selling them all set up. I drill a hole in the end and add a potentiometer, which I've got to make a knob for. Drill the other hole in the other end, and that's my cable entry point and a stuffing gland. I've done a few now, so I kind of get to this point and go, oh, that was straightforward. And the first time I did it, it took me bloody ages. Right, I'll bring you back in a bit. So inside the box of tricks, that's the potentiometer with the 3 wires, and don't touch the plastic housing with your soldering iron because you get lots of black smoke. All the magic smoke comes out, as Mr. Mills would say. These are just spare. It's a multi-core cable, and I always buy one with more than I need. So the salmon pink is the common feed. The normally closed contactor for the stop button, so as soon as that's depressed it breaks the power, so it drops the signal out to whichever of these is running. Normally open for the forward command, and a normally open for the jog. So in operation, that's an open. That's open until you depress it, and then it gives you a momentary signal which tells the inverter to run. Yeah, listen to me almost sound like what I've done. Did get those 3 wires the wrong way round to start off with. Gets me every time. Righty, so we've got main power in. It's all temporary this, because it's on the, it's just sat on the workbench so I can get at it. Main power in via a 3-pin plug. I've actually put it on a 16 amp supply, just because it was the most convenient plug. And then we've got the motor power out.
We've then got the control terminals for feeding it from the pendant, and the way it's set up, these 3 wires here are for the external potentiometer, the twiddly knob. Then we've got the common feed, which is on DCM. Then I can't see, I don't know whether you can see that. We're actually running it with reverse, reset and speed high. But inside the controls you can change the parameters for what each of these terminals do, and I can't get the forward terminal to give me forward. So we're using the speed high, and we'll just change the parameter to give it, so when it gets a signal from the switch, it goes into whatever the preset speed is on the potentiometer. I've then got the blue wire connected into reverse, and the parameter for that is set to give me a jog function. And I've not got the jog set up on a push and hold button. It's literally on a change switch, so you can set the jog speed to whatever you like within the minimum and the maximum of the hertz that you've preset for the running parameters. So I've set the minimum hertz at 20 on the basis that that's only ever going to be used for jog, and then you've got the pot to give you adjustment either side between 20 and I think it's 75 is the maximum. Shoo! We're set up. I've got the stroke at full length, so if we put it on jog, so it's running at 20 hertz, it's in its lowest gear, and it's stroking out, I think it's 14 inch. I haven't measured it yet. I'll knock the jog off and then press go. I've got the ramp speed, the ramp for acceleration I think is 3 seconds up to full speed, or whatever the full speed is set at. So we're at 49.5 hertz. Well, that's 50 hertz. Oh, sorry, 56. That's 75 hertz. Wind it back down. So that's 50 hertz in the lowest speed. There's a bit of a rattle coming out. I found that the lay shaft has got probably about 20 thou of end float, so I need to just tweak up the nuts on the end of that. Anyway, a lot of pissing about with the inverter. I've set the stop command so it coasts to a stop, because there's not an awful lot of momentum built in, so it's going to go coasting at a couple of seconds. Yeah, don't know why the forward control isn't working on that. It's more than likely one of the parameters in there, but I've been through and set all the ones that I'm aware of. I've then reset them. So without doing a factory reset, because some of the alleged factory presets weren't as defined in the book, so I don't know. Anyway, next job is get that screwed up on the wall, mount the socket, and then I've got to start looking at setting the DTI up off the clapper box and stroking backwards and forwards on the plate and just find out where I'm at levels wise. Bring you back later. Thought I'd share this with the subscribers. I've been keeping my eye open looking for some decent high-speed steel.
on the auction sites, and picked up these 3 or 4. They're actually oddball shapes, along with all of these, which are 3/8. Most of it is Momax grade Cleveland, in a lot with this lot, which is 1/2 inch, and then I measured those. They all came out of an auction lot, and these are just a few carbide oddballs that I've got, which is very good grade. This is welded on high speed steel. With these knurling units, which are not really suitable for my lightweight lathe, that was in the bottom of the box, which is again for a fairly lightweight lathe or a small shaper, I guess. But what I actually bought, and what I was bidding on, was that, tucked in the bottom of that box. So that's a well, as far as I'm concerned, that's my universal tool for my shaper. It takes a 3/8 square bit. The shanks, I need to check the dimensions, but it should fit. If not, it'll be shaved down a touch. I've been looking for months for one, and I was getting to a stage where I was thinking I was going to have to make one up. So that came, and then an oversized lathe part. Takes 3/8 bit, same as the other one. So not a bad haul. Sadly, it cost me a bit more than I wanted to pay, but the lathe tool holders and the knurling bits, they came in a lot for 25 quid, and then all the high speed steel bits, I think they were a tenner. And it's cost me 15 quid to get it delivered because it was so bloody heavy. But don't think I need to buy any more for a while. Chuffed about that though.